What's up, fantasy managers? Welcome back to another episode of the First Pitch Podcast brought to you by PitcherList.com. My name is Jake Crumpler, and I'll be your host for this edition of the podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake Crumpler, and you can find all of my work at CrumplerBaseball.com. Let's dive into everything baseball related from Tuesday, April 29th, starting it off as always with the transactions, injuries, news, and notes from around the league. We'll start it off with the bad news. We only have one IL placement on Tuesday as utility man Dylan Moore was placed on the 10-day IL with hip inflammation. He has been playing all over the field for the Mariners throughout his career, and especially this year, and he's been playing really well, so super unfortunate for the Mariners. Samad Taylor was selected from the minors in a corresponding move. He's likely to fill in off the bench, and it looks like Miles Mastrobuoni will see more playing time in the infield for the Mariners with Dylan Moore on the IL with hip inflammation. In terms of transactions, outfielder Dalton Varsho was activated from the 10-day IL. He's missed the entire season, still recovering from September shoulder surgery. He should play center field every day for the Blue Jays moving forward. That's Dalton Varsho. He made a crazy catch on Tuesday out in center field. Definitely go look that one up. It was one of the craziest catches I've ever seen, and it wasn't like a good catch per se. Next, we have first baseman Luis Arias, who was activated from the 7-day concussion IL. He's back to being the Padres' everyday first baseman. Outfielder Jason Hayward was also activated from the IL. He was on the 10-day IL with knee inflammation. He'll be on the strong side of a left field platoon for the Padres, sharing that role with Connor Joe. That's Jason Hayward and Luis Arias returning for the Padres. It looks like Tirso Ornelas is likely to see less playing time for the Padres. Same with Yuli Gurriel, who is designated for assignment by the team in a corresponding move. Next, we have starting pitcher AJ Smith-Shawver, who was recalled from the minors by the Braves to start in Colorado on Tuesday. We'll discuss that start a little bit later. In terms of news, starting pitcher Tony Gonsolin is expected to be activated from the 15-day IL to make his season debut versus the Marlins today. He's been out for the entire season with a back injury. I think Gonsolin is somebody that should be targeted universally, mostly just because he pitches for the Dodgers, but this is a pretty soft landing for him against the Marlins. I don't have a ton of faith in Gonsolin as a pitcher in a vacuum, but pitching for the Dodgers gives him pretty good win opportunity, and we've seen what he can do if he just gets some good batted ball luck. That's Tony Gonsolin returning on Wednesday. Next, we have second baseman Ketel Marte, who is expected to be activated from the 10-day IL on Friday. He's been out for a few weeks with a hamstring strain. He'll reclaim an everyday role at second base for the Diamondbacks, which could leave Tim Tawa without a role. He's gotten off to a really strong start to his major league career. I'm sure they'll find a way to get him into the lineup, but it's likely going to be not in an everyday capacity, more so as a utility guy. That's Tim Tawa, who will be without a role as Ketel Marte is set to return on Friday. Next, we have relief pitcher AJ Minter, who's considering season-ending surgery to address the strained lat he was diagnosed with last week. Super tough blow to the Mets bullpen, which I wouldn't consider deep, but AJ Minter nonetheless is a huge part of any bullpen that he is a member of. And that will really force the Mets to try to figure things out. I would not be surprised if they start wheeling and dealing, making some trades to address this AJ Minter possible season-ending surgery. Next, we have starting pitcher Chase Petty, who is expected to be promoted to make his MLB debut versus the Cardinals. He was the number 26 overall pick in 2021 and is the Reds' number 6 prospect, according to MLB Pipeline. They also have him as the number 99 prospect overall. Chase Petty has an elite fastball, slider, and cutter combination, but I don't expect him to stick in the rotation outside of this doubleheader, so he's probably not worth your fab. Obviously, we'll have a better idea of that in a couple of days, whether or not he remains in the rotation, but for now, we'll sit back and watch on Chase Petty. And our last bit of news involves relief pitcher AJ Puck, who was diagnosed with a flexor strain. He was initially diagnosed with elbow inflammation, was seeking multiple opinions after undergoing an MRI. Very concerning for AJ Puck, but this flexor strain, not as concerning. He won't require surgery, and he won't throw for the next 2 to 3 weeks before being reassessed. So we're unlikely to see Puck pitch again in the majors for a couple of months, but this is definitely good news. Now we'll take a look at some of the notable performances from Tuesday, and a day in which we had just 14 games on the slate, as the matchup between the Cardinals and the Reds was postponed due to inclement weather, and they'll make that up in a doubleheader today. We'll start things off with our hitters, leading off with first baseman Ben Rice, who helped the Yankees to a big win in Baltimore, going 3 for 5 with 4 runs, 2 homers, and 2 runs batted in. He's up to 8 homers on the year now. The first one traveled 378 feet at 97 miles per hour, and the second one traveled 389 feet at 100 miles per hour. And I think the question we're all asking at this point is Ben Rice legit? He sort of came out of nowhere last year, wasn't a super highly ranked prospect, but he's now the Yankees' everyday first baseman, and he bats ahead of or behind Aaron Judge every single day. Incredible spot to be in that lineup, no matter how well you're performing at the plate. But Ben Rice has been incredible this year. Like I said, 8 homers, 278 batting average, 998 OPS. And StatCast suggests that this is all legit. 22% barrel rate, 60% hard hit rate, and he's underperforming his underlying metrics right now. And that's not even including Tuesday's output. I do think that Ben Rice is probably going to see a downturn in the batting average department as the league adjusts to him and takes advantage of the swing and miss in his game. He was running a 25% strikeout rate entering Tuesday, but the StatCast metrics suggest the power is legit for Ben Rice, and that role is to die for, batting at the top of that Yankees lineup and playing every single day. I think Ben Rice needs to be rostered universally. Next, we have catcher Carson Kelly, who helped the Cubs to win in Pittsburgh, going 3 for 5 with a run, a home run, and 3 runs batted in. He's up to 7 homers on the year now. And this one traveled 418 feet at 102 miles per hour. I was skeptical of Kelly's hot start, especially when I covered him when he hit for the cycle at the very outset of the season. He was clearly the Cubs' backup catcher, so playing time was uncertain, and he'd never really been more than an average hitter at his peak, and now entering his early 30s, so you're not really expecting an offensive breakout from Carson Kelly. But at this point, he just won't stop, and the underlying metrics are certainly eye-catching. He's got a 24% walk rate compared to an 8% strikeout rate, so doing an incredible job in terms of plate discipline, and that's paid off at the plate as well. In terms of batted ball metrics, we're looking at a 16% barrel rate and a 62% hard hit rate for Carson Kelly. He's also got career highs in fly ball percentage and pull percentage, which is in line with the increased barrel rate. And at this point, I don't think the Cubs can ignore this anymore. So he's got to get more playing time moving forward. If not getting 50-50 playing time with Miguel Amaya, more like 60-40. And I think he should be in consideration for 12-teamers at this point, 12-team one-catcher leagues. That's Carson Kelly batting 370 with a 14-15 OPS. I think you just got to ride this out because these underlying metrics suggest that this new Carson Kelly is going to stay at least for a while. And last we have first baseman Ty France, who did all he could, but the Twins lost in Cleveland. France went 3 for 4 with a run, a home run, and an RBI. It was his third homer of the year, and it traveled 396 feet at 105 miles per hour. France's career sort of plateaued in Seattle as he struggled to be a league average hitter and produced little defensive value at first base. And Cincinnati didn't really treat him much better after the Reds acquired him at last year's trade deadline. But he spent a lot of time at Driveline over the past 2 off seasons. It didn't really pay off last year, but it seems to be paying off this year, despite what the surface numbers suggest. France is batting 267 with a 755 OPS, but he's got a career low 13% strikeout rate, a career high 7.5% walk rate, a career high 13% barrel rate, and 45% hard hit rate. And all of that suggests that Ty France could return to the 20 home run power that he achieved in 2022, while returning his average to the 270 range that he's been at throughout his career before dropping below 250 over the past 2 years. I think that makes Ty France very viable in 15-team leagues. But if you'd like a breakdown of other notable hitting performances from Tuesday, check out the Daily Batters Box article over on pitcherlist.com. Now we'll head to the mound and check out some notable starting pitching performances, opening with Chris Paddock, who did all he could, but the Twins lost in Cleveland. He tossed 5 innings, allowing 4 hits and 1 earned run while walking 1 and striking out 2. He induced 4 whiffs with 13% CSW across 76 pitches. And for Paddock, since his 9-run blowup at the hands of the White Sox to open the season, he has an even 3 ERA in 5 starts. So that 5.60 ERA certainly being dragged down by that opening start to the season. He faced a left-handed heavy Guardians lineup on Tuesday, Paddock that is, and he located his pitches perfectly with heaters upstairs, changeups arm side, and the rare curveball or slider down in the zone. But he relied heavily on contact, as evidenced by the 17% CSW, and he got away with a lot of mistakes in the zone that suggests that this is unsustainable for Paddock, but he can be someone who can be trusted as a streamer against weak lineups. He gets the Red Sox in Fenway next, and that is not one of the situations in which we can trust Chris Paddock. Next, we have AJ Smith-Shawver, who helped the Braves to win in Colorado, tossing 5 and a third innings, allowing 4 hits and 2 earned runs while walking 1 and striking out 5. He induced 9 whiffs with 32% CSW across 59 pitches. And despite being limited in this surprise start for Shawver, he still pitched into the 6th inning as he carved up the Rockies with his Coors-proof splitter, as that pitch earned 71% strikes with 6 whiffs and 33% CSW. Usually those pitches that rely heavily on seam-shifted wake do a lot better in the thin air of Coors. So that's why the splitter performed so well for Smith-Shawver in Colorado. He threw his heater down the middle a little bit too much, but Andy saw a 2 mile per hour decrease in its velocity and a 2-inch decrease in its IVB, but it still played well off his splitter with 7 feet of extension for 80% strikes, 2 whiffs, and 27% CSW. That's on the fastball. While the slider worked as a surprise to deter righties for 1 whiff and 38% CSW, honestly, the decline of the fastball can sort of be waved off by the impromptu start here for Smith-Shawver, as well as him pitching in baseball's toughest park. But the command of the pitch is really what worries me. If he's unable to locate that pitch upstairs rather than letting it leak out over the middle of the plate, he's probably going to get crushed. I think Smith-Shawver's worth the spin in 15 teamers while he's in the Braves rotation, but I'm going to need to see some more before jumping on board in shallower leagues. Smith-Shawver gets the Reds next, and I think that's could be a fine start if you're worth taking the risk. Lastly, we have Michael Lorenzen, who helped the Royals to win in Tampa Bay, tossing 6 innings, allowing 4 hits and 1 earned run while walking 2 and striking out 4. He can do 6 whiffs with 24% CSW across 88 pitches. Lorenzen went kitchen sink per usual, turning to 7 different pitches, but relying most heavily on his sinker, 4-seamer, curveball, and changeup, as he kept lefties guessing with arm side sinkers and changeups while looping in curveballs, while righties saw a vast array of sweepers, sliders, curves, and fastballs. And this is really what we can expect from Lorenzen all year long. He'll generally underwhelm as a low strikeout pitcher, just 4 strikeouts in this one and 28 strikeouts in 33 and a 2/3 innings on the year. But the thing about Toby's is that they produce acceptable ratios and can secure wins when pitching for a successful team. We've already seen 3 wins for Lorenzen to go with the 3.48 ERA. The 1.37 whip is not desirable, but we'll take that ERA. Lorenzen checks all the boxes for being a Toby, and he's going to be one of the most reliable ones throughout the year. He's somebody that you can stream against poor offenses, or if you are very desperate for reliable, boring starters, you can hold on to him. Lorenzen gets the White Sox next. That's a clear stream there. But if you'd like a breakdown of every single start from Tuesday, give the Plus Pitch podcast a listen and check out Nick's daily SP roundup over on pitcherlist.com. Now we'll head to the bullpen and check out the relievers that got saves and the closers that pitched outside of save situations or blew their saves. Starting with the former, Robert Suarez recorded his MLB leading and NL leading 11th save with a perfect 9th. I say NL leading because he's tied with somebody else that we'll get to shortly. Dane Dunning recorded his first save of the 3-inning variety as he tossed 3 innings, allowing 4 hits and 2 earned runs while walking 2 and striking out 3. Carlos Estevez recorded his 8th save with a scoreless 9th, and Andres Munoz recorded his 11th save with a perfect 9th. Obviously, he's tied for the MLB lead with Robert Suarez and leads the American League in saves. In terms of closers to pitch outside of save situations or blow their saves, Yohan Duran pitched a perfect 8th in a tie game, and the Twins would lose that one in 9 innings. Emmanuel Clase on the opposite side of that one pitched a scoreless 9th in a tie game and then earned his 4th win when the Guardians walked it off. David Bednar allowed a run while pitching the 9th down by 8. He hadn't pitched since Friday, so it was a maintenance outing for Bednar. Jose Alvarado pitched a scoreless 8th with a 1-run lead to earn his 3rd hold, but Orion Kirkring blew the save in the 9th. However, Kyle Finnegan then came on and allowed 2 runs in the 9th to blow his 2nd save, so the Phillies went home to win that one. Will Vest allowed 3 runs while recording 3 outs across the 6th and 7th innings. Not ideal, and that led to his first blown save of the season. And lastly, Josh Hader surrendered a 2-run homer to Gleyber Torres, but locked down a 4-run lead in the 9th. But if you'd like more information on relief pitchers, make sure to check out Rick Graham's weekly articles over on pitcherlist.com. And before we look forward to today's games, we're going to take a quick break. Now we'll look forward to Wednesday, April 30th, and day which will have a full slate of 16 games as the Cardinals and Reds partake in a doubleheader in Cincinnati. My matchup of the day is Luis Severino versus Nathan Eovaldi. We got a couple of veterans. You never really know with these two, but honestly, either one of them could throw a complete game shutout. So I think it should be a fun interdivision matchup there between the A's and the Rangers. In terms of probable starters, we've got 7 guys in our auto starts tier, including Michael King versus the Giants, Pablo Lopez in Cleveland, and Drew Rasmussen versus the Royals. In our probably starts tier, we've got 9 guys. There's plenty of guys to stream on Wednesday, but our streamer of the day is Tyler Anderson as he takes on the Mariners in Seattle, probably the best place to pitch in baseball right now. And Tyler Anderson has been on a roll with his changeup command, so he should be able to take down the Mariners on Wednesday. I'd also keep an eye out for Tobias Myers in Chicago against the White Sox. He is a Toby, as his name suggests, but he's off the still ill now after returning from the IL and making his start last week. This will be his second start of the season. He gets a really good matchup here against the White Sox. I'm streaming him in that one. In terms of hitter suggestions, I go for Cardinals and Reds hitters in their doubleheader in Great American Ballpark. Great place to hit. The pitching matchups we'll see are Miles Mikolas versus Brady Singer in game 1, and then Steven Matz versus Chase Petty in game 2. So those are all righties except for Steven Matz is a lefty. So in game 2, you're going to want right-handed hitting Reds hitters. I'll also target Braves and Rockies hitters in Coors. Pretty self-explanatory. Best hitters ballpark in baseball. We'll see Chris Sale take on Chase Dolander. So you'll probably want to target Braves hitters as Chris Sale could probably dominate no matter what park he pitches in. And I will close things out with our relievers to watch. We have just one as Josh Hader's pitched on back-to-back days, but so has Brian Abreu. So maybe we see Steven Okert get a save. He's the only other arm in the Astros bullpen with a save this year, but maybe Brian King gets a shot. He's been heavily trusted and it's been really good to start the 2025 campaign for the Astros. But that'll do it for today's episode of the First Pitch Podcast. Make sure to head on over to pitcherlist.com to check out all of the great articles and features we have on the site. Sign up for PL Plus or PL Pro to gain access to the Discord and to support the Pitcher List staff. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake Crumpler. Tune in live on YouTube tomorrow and every day for a new installment of the podcast. And make sure to enjoy the day as we are blessed with another day of baseball.